Hi there, Sandra here from the Schwowin's Nest. Welcome to my Holly Jolly Christmas DIYs and Decor series. Today I'm making two Dollar Tree DIYs for you. This is a Canada sign that you can see here, and I just wanted to take all of that glitter and paper off on the top. Now this is an arduous procedure. It takes a long time and you have to be patient, but just using the Dollar Tree scraper I was able to just pull it off and reveal a beautiful board underneath. Since I'm not going to be using the two hanging holes, I'm taking some of my spackle and I'm going to fill that in, let it dry, and then sand it down. Next, I'm going to give it 2 coats of DIY chalk paint in white, and this is just a latex white paint that's had some baby powder added to it. If you want the full recipe, it is down in my description box on each of my videos. If you have any questions about it, let me know in the comments. I've turned the sign sideways because that's how I'm going to use it, and I took my ruler and a pencil and I divided the boards so you can see them better. And now I'm just taking some black chalk paint. Again, it's a DIY with just an acrylic paint that's black and adding some baby powder to it. And I'm just going to do some dry brushing. I start always with a really light touch, and then at some point throughout I usually get a dark spot, and then there's the dark spot, and then that kind of tells me that I need to go over some of the other boards and make it look a little bit more uniform. I tried something a little different this time when I was doing my dry brushing to add some of the darker spots in, and you can see that I've got my brush just kind of turned on its side and I'm just stroking with the wood grain to give it a little bit more depth and character. I'm using this bowl that I have in my craft room, and I'm just using it as a template to create a circle so I can make sure that when I'm gluing this wreath together, it's not going to go haywire. So I'm going to be making a mini pine cone wreath, and I've got 2 types of these mini pine cones from the Dollar Tree. They have a bag that is some frosted ones, and they have some that are plain. I'm going to be doing a mix of pine cones throughout this wreath, and all I'm doing is hot gluing them in one direction all the way around. So I'll start at the top and then kind of stagger them to the side and just mix up the shades and the sizes until I get a look that I like. Here's how the wreath is looking. I think it's coming together really nicely, and I'm so glad I did that pencil circle line because it definitely is keeping me on track and I'm not ending up with an oval or a square or some other wonky shape. Okay, so here's what I'm famous for: doing a project, turning my camera off to give the camera a break or maybe charge up my battery, and then forgetting to turn the camera back on when I continue my craft. This is what happened with these little red pip berries that you see in the top left-hand corner. I cut them apart and put a couple here and there all the way through. I grouped them in some singles and some double little pips, and I think it turned out really pretty. What I'm doing here now is just adding some boxwood greenery. I thought it needed something to brighten it up, and as soon as I kind of laid some of these leaves against it, I thought, wow, it's really making a big difference. Even though I want it to be rustic and farmhouse, that little pop of greenery just makes all the difference in the world. So I'm just going to take 2 of the little leaves and then use some hot glue and put them around and get them in a place where I like them. I'm just going to be doing the bottom portion of the wreath. I don't want to go all the way around with the greenery because then it starts to look a little cheap. I also added some of the leaves down at the bottom of the wreath, and now I'm working with these pip berries. There's a little fabric leaf that I'm just taking off here, and then I'm going to trim it down and figure out where I want to put it. I'm adding another bunch of these little pip berries down at the bottom, and then I'm going to also add a few other leaves. Here you can see that I pulled out the leaves that I had on the inside of the wreath. I decided I didn't like them, but I added a few more of the leaves down at the bottom. To hang the wreath, I'm just going to use some twine and I'm going to double it up and then just hot glue it on the back. And here's how this cutie turned out. My second project for you today is using this round piece of wood from Crafter's Square at the Dollar Tree. I don't need the hanger, so I'm just going to trim that piece of jute off. Whenever I'm using a piece of raw wood, I really like to use stain on it, and this is the color Dark Walnut. It turns out to be a beautiful brown color, which towards the end of the video, you'll see that I change up. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and use a soft cloth and wipe on the stain and rub it in. And then I'll let it dry for about an hour. Now I'm going to work on these two bottle brush trees that came from the Dollar Tree. And they're okay. They're, a pretty good quality. But, some of them are a little wonky. You have got to twist them and turn them and make them stand upright. But let's put that aside. They're worth the $1.25 that I paid for them. I'm also going to be using some of these little pip berries. I'm going to cut them really short, take some hot glue, and then glue them right inside the trees, making it look like they have ornaments. So here I've got some flat beads that I'm going to be attaching to the bottom of the Crafter's Square circle to give this a little bit more of an elevated look, a little bit more of a high-end look, and then these will be the feet. The glass jar that you see at the top of the screen is what I'm going to be using as a cloche. This was a candle holder at some point that I kept. It's in really good condition. I was able to get all of the wax out, and it's just being used as a vase for right now. And I thought, what a perfect piece to use because it's going to look just like a bell. Now I'm just going to take some hot glue and glue these cute little trees right onto the base. So I decided to paint the beads. They were two different colors. So I took some black and some brown and tried to get the same shade as the dark walnut stain. And I think I achieved it. It looks pretty good. So then you're going to see me change things completely towards the end. I want this to be kind of a woodland Christmas look without too much snow yet. I think it's still a little early for me to be thinking about using snow, but I'm going to be taking just the top portion of this moss and I'm just going to fit it all the way around the base. I'm actually not even going to hot glue it on because at some point I might want to take the moss away and put snow there. However, I had a really funky idea and I thought, why not just use a little bit of baby powder to sprinkle on top of the moss and make it look like there's just a little dusting of snow. So I'm just taking some in my hand and then I'm going to be just dragging it across there. And this turned out really nice, but then I ended up just taking the bottle and just shaking it all over the place. And I got a really good dusting of snow. Here's how the jar is going to fit. It actually fits perfectly right on top of that round, and I'm just going to be able to let it just sit there. I'm now going to take one of these candle cups from the Dollar Tree and use the same black and brown paint and give it a coat just so it's not that natural wood look. I was really loving the woodland look, but I thought it looked a little too dark. So I'm just taking my little chip brush and giving it a little bit of a dry brush effect all the way around the base, and I'll do the same for the little candle cup. Before I put the jar back on top, this is where I just took the bottle of baby powder and started shaking all over the place so I could get a really nice dusting of snow. The last thing to do was glue the candle cup with hot glue right in the middle of the bottom of the jar. As I was taking pictures to show you, I decided that I didn't like the dark look and gave the brown parts a little bit more white. I think it looks much better. I hope you enjoyed these two Christmas DIYs. If you did, I'd love for you to stick around and see what I'm up to for the next few months. Click that subscribe button. Those two black arrows will show you exactly where to hit. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.